Hello, this is the multiplayer setup guide for dynamic health bars asset. We're going to continue to use this target range character to display the health bar, but we do need to change the character pawn because the default character that comes with the Unreal 5 first person shooter template project is not multiplayer replicated. So when you shoot bullets, it doesn't sort of happen on both client and server side, so we can't use that as a base. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the character that comes with the asset. So if you go to dynamic health bars under under the demo, under first person character, in the blueprints folder there's a first person character. Now this is the one that's copied over from Unreal Engine 4, which I've updated to be multiplayer enabled, and we're going to use that character instead. So if we go to the world settings and open the game mode and open the default pawn class and change it from BP first person character, so let's just open this a little bit wider. So change it from BP first person character to just first person character. So this is the one that comes with the asset. Now I've set the project to have 2 players and I've set the net mode to listen server. So one's going to be the server and one's going to be the client. I play that. Actually, let's just remove this weapon. We don't need that anymore. And you can see the servers on the left side, and when they fire you can see the bullets on the left side, on the right side, sorry. And then if you fire on the right side you can see the bullets on the left side as well. So this is fully replicated and multiplayer enabled. So the next thing we need to do is we need to open the target actor blueprint, and so this is going to represent your enemies, your crates, or whatever it is that has health bars, and in most cases in your game that will be replicated. So if you have enemies or things that you fight, they probably will be replicated. So we're going to turn on replication for this target this target range actor. So in the class defaults we're going to set replicates to true. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to make sure that only the server version of this asset is going to detect hits and destroy the bullets. So if you remember back to a couple of tutorials ago, what this blueprint does is that it detects a hit on this mesh, and then it destroys whatever it hits. And in our case, it's the projectile. But if we make it multiplayer, we want to make sure that only the server does that, right? So we're going to do a has authority switch. So if it has authority, then we want to destroy the actor. So if the client detects a hit, it's not going to do anything. And then all this stuff is the health bar, and that's purely visual. So we can then get the server to call a function to get all the clients to update the health bar. So we're going to create a custom event, and we're going to call that multicast update health bar. Now, by the way, if your project is already multiplayer enabled, you can probably do this in an entirely different way. This is just a really quick way for me to get multiplayer set up, so I can show you the multiplayer settings, right? Please bear with me if you already have this stuff working in your project. So the server is going to destroy the project, and then it's going to call this function needs to be multicast, set reliable to true. Okay, so the logic is when the server version of this target range actor gets hit, the server version will destroy the projectile, and then the server version will call this multicast update health bar function, and it will tell all the clients to update their health bars. So anything that happens here needs to be visual only, because that's going to be handled client side. So for example, adding status effects, like even the damage really should be calculated server side and passed in. So for example, let's just get rid of the status effects for now. Let's not worry about that. but the damage example at the moment is going to be applied client side. So you might want to, just as an example, you want to pass that in instead, right? So that gets passed in from the, so the server will calculate the damage. Let's actually make that a random. And let's just make that an integer. So let's make it a random damage from, I don't know, 5 to 15 or 5 to 20, right? So the server is going to calculate the damage, and the server is going to pass through the damage to all the clients, so the clients can update the health bar with this value that's calculated on the server. Just a little thing that that I want to make sure that you understand, that when it gets to this function, it really needs to be visual only. You don't want the clients to be calculating damage and figuring out what effects to what status effects to apply and things like that. So if we run this, you should see that the damage should be exactly the same. It's a random value calculated by the server, but by the time it gets to the client, it's the same damage. So you see the health bar is getting random damage, but it's the same on both the client and the server. Now, if you don't need health bars to change colors, if you don't need like the name of the actor to change depending on which team you're on, then you don't actually need to do anything else. This is all you need to do. But if you're doing a PvP game where you want to see allies as blue health bar and you want to see enemies as red health bar, then you're going to need a couple extra steps. Now there's a component that you need to add to get that sort of functionality to work. So if you click add, and by the way, everything that displays a health bar and everything that will ever look at a health bar needs to have this this component. So in our case, these actors are going to show a health bar, right? The enemy or ally. So they're going to need this component. And the characters themselves, the player characters, are going to look at the health bar. So they also need to have this component. The component is very simple. It's just a team ID. So it basically matches, it tries to determine whether the team ID of the thing you're looking at is the same as yourself and change colors accordingly. It's a very simple thing. So if we press add, and I believe it's called actor component team ID, you add that, and if you look at the properties, that's the only property that this component has, the team ID. So, and once you add it, that's pretty much all you need to do. Now, what I'm going to do to simulate different teams is a little bit hacky, but it should give us the functionality that we need. So if I go to, it's already set up, but I'll just show you how I did it. So in the demo assets, if you go to first person character and go to blueprints, if you go to the first person character, which I again mentioned is multiplayer enabled, and if you go to begin play, what I'm doing is, if this character is the server character which has authority, then I set it to team 1. If it's not, if it's a client, then I set it to team 2. So essentially it kind of only works at the moment if you use listen server, because it's the server is going to be team 1 and the client is going to be team 2. If you set it to play as client, this isn't going to work. But again, of course, in your own game, you're not going to set team IDs of characters doing it like this way. You're going to have your own lobby system. You're going to have your own way to set this variable. So how you set it is up to you, but you need to set these variables on team 1 and team 2. So this is a hacky way of doing it, but it's good enough for our demonstration purposes. So I have set the target actor to team 1, right? And the characters, the server is going to be team 1 and the other one is going to be team 2. So if we go back to this blueprint, now if we run this, both characters are still going to see the same color because we haven't set up the multiplayer options yet. So you can see they both see pink. So if we go back to the initialize function, and we look at the optional multiplayer settings. So this is the one option which I haven't talked about yet. So if we drag that pin out, type make other team info. So this is where you can set what the other team sees. So you can give the other team an optional material, and you can override the color and you can override the name. Now you have to click these to access the other team color. So if you do change the team color but you don't click that, it's not going to work. You have to sort of click it, and same thing with the name. So for our purposes, let's say by default the color is blue. Okay, so this is an ally, and let's change the name to now we're pretending that this is like a multiplayer game, so we're not fighting orcs and enemies and things like that. This is like a multiplayer game, right? Let's say. So the default color is blue and it says ally, and then we want to override the color. The other team is red, and we want to override the name, and let's call that enemy. So if we compile that and run, you'll see that on the server side, on the left side, which is team 1, it's going to say ally, and it's going to have a blue health bar. It's going to be colored blue, and then on the right side, which is the client, team 2, it's going to be red. It's going to say enemy, and then obviously the health bar still works. And you can also give it a material as well. So if you want the other team to have, remember those pattern materials that we were looking at? So maybe and maybe you don't want segments if you're going to use materials. So the other team color, and you probably don't need to override, actually you do need to override the color, you need to make that white. So now we can get the enemy team to have an animated health bar. So team 1 on the left sees a blue health bar with the word ally, and then team 2, which is the client on the right side, sees the word enemy and sees an animated health bar. So you can set that to whatever you want. And that's pretty much it for the multiplayer setup. Again, the way that you set up all this functionality is going to be different in your game, but you just have to remember to add the active component team ID to everything that displays a health bar and to everything that is going to look at a health bar. And then you set the team IDs, and then you can set this multiplayer option setting here to determine what the other team sees. So again, we have the server on the left and the client on the right seeing different colored health bars and different names. And that's it for the multiplayer tutorial. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, please drop by my Discord or you can send me an email. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching.